Alright, so now that the dust has settled on free agency and the Keenan Allen trade, let's do another Chargers mock draft. And spoiler alert, unlike a certain other draft analyst, I'm not going with a trade in this one. And if Marvin Harrison falls to me, I'm taking him, which is why you should like the video and subscribe to the channel. As far as free agency goes, the Chargers have had a very busy one, but that doesn't mean it complicates who they might take, because it looks like, based on the players they've signed, they don't seem like anything other than stopgaps. Meaning the likes of Bradley Bozeman, Poona Ford, Denzel Perryman, even Gus Edwards aren't really going to keep the Chargers from drafting anyone. In other words, running back, center, defensive tackle, even linebacker are all still likely possibilities in the draft. However, the lack of activity when it comes to two positions makes me think that they're going to target these two positions very early, and that's wide receiver and corner. I know everyone wants you to believe they're going to take a right guard with the 10th pick of the draft or whatever, but I just don't see that being a thing, because quite frankly, the glaring need at wide receiver and corner isn't what it is when it comes to the right tackle and right guard. I know Trey Pipkins isn't exactly beloved, but he's not as bad as, say, like, having Darius Davis as like your starting wide receiver at this point. So with that said, in this mock draft, my priority is wide receiver and corner, and then look to add to the defensive tackle rotation, as well as maybe add a linebacker, a running back, and still even a tight end, even though they did sign two. I think there are some really good prospects in the middle rounds to be had. I will be going into more depth into Chargers free agency, doing draft grades, so hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. So knowing that, let's see how I did on the mock draft, which PFF gave it an A-, but I'd argue I deserve an A for it. Let me know what you think at the end. So as I spoiler alerted you earlier, the Chargers are picking at 5 in my scenario. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels are all off the board, and Marvin Harrison just went to the Cardinals. So basically, all very good trade down scenarios are gone, unless some team starts thinking that JJ McCarthy has beer-flavored nipples. So the decision here comes down to Malik Nabers, Rome Odunze, or Joe Alt. I know some of you want Bowers here, but I don't think he's in play. If you watch my most recent Keenan Allen video, then you know that I went into depth about Rome Odunze versus Malik Nabers. And I like both of them a lot, but the more I think about it, the more I realize that Rome Odunze seems like the obvious pick that everyone seems to be missing. Yes, the Niners do want to run the ball, but they also want someone to throw deep to, right? Because that's what their play-action game is based on. Run the ball and shot plays. And who better to do that with Rome Odunze? He's a good run blocker, so it doesn't tip you off if he's on the field. And he ran a 4.45 at the combine. This just seems like an absolute slam dunk of a pick. In the second round, I have the Chargers making another tough decision. Zach Frazier's on the board, and I really like him, and I think he could be a all-pro potentially. But with Bradley Bozeman there, I feel like they might try to take a guy in the mid-round and develop him. In the middle rounds do have some good prospects, so stick around to find out who I take. And as I mentioned earlier, corner is definitely a position of need, which is why I have them taking TJ Tampa, a big corner out of Iowa State. Mike Sainer still is available, but I think when it comes to the big corners, the drop-off is pretty big in this draft. And the likelihood of being able to find someone off the scrap heap who can play your nickel, as opposed to, say, an outside guy, is way higher. Though, this is not to say that he's not without talent. I think he's a really legitimate prospect and could even sneak into the first round. With their third round pick, I have the Chargers taking their first Michigan product in Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle. He's never going to be much of a pass rusher, but he's very stout against the run. And with the Chargers retaining both Bosa and Mack, and having Thule as well, I don't think they have to be as concerned when it comes to getting pass rush from up the middle. If anything, it's going to make life easier for the guys doing the dirty work. Taking a defensive tackle in third round might not be the best value pick. You might want to swing for the fences more, but I think the Chargers just frankly need more talent when it comes to this position. And why not bring in someone who Harbaugh and Minter are familiar with? It will come in handy for a team looking to learn a new defense. With their first fourth round pick, I have the Chargers taking Marshawn Lloyd, a running back out of USC. He's not the tallest running back around at 5'9", but he does weigh in at 220 pounds. And he ran a 4.46 at the combine, which is quite good for a running back. And it shows in his RAS score, which is top 5 for the position. Not to mention he's an excellent complement to Gus Edwards and his bruising style. And I know Blake Corum is a popular pick for the Chargers, but I'm concerned he has a lot of mileage on him. And for that frame, I don't know how well he'll hold up. So I think a guy like Lloyd is the way to go. With their second fourth round pick, I orchestrated a pick swap with the Eagles and took Theo Johnson, a tight end out of Penn State. Funny enough, up until this pick, PFF was loving my draft. I got 3 A's and an A- for Marshawn Lloyd, but then a C for Theo Johnson, a guy who has a perfect RAS score. I don't know, considering Greg Roman's history of utilizing the tight end position and Theo Johnson's athletic gifts, seems like a no-brainer to me. In the 5th round, I finally have the Chargers taking a center, Drake Nugent, out of Michigan. PFF really hated this one and gave me a D, but I don't think it's a bad pick. Sure, his RAS score is underwhelming, but if you look harder, he's actually considered elite when it comes to the shuttle, which many consider to be the most predictive of combine stats when it comes to interior offensive linemen. So if you combine the fact that he's from Michigan and he can ride the pine a bit and learn the position, I think it's a pretty ideal situation and pick for the Chargers. With the 5th round pick, I have the Chargers taking Luke McCaffrey, a wide receiver out of Rice. Luke is obviously the brother of Christian McCaffrey, the guy who's either won you a fantasy championship or lost you one. And according to PFF, I really reached on this one, but I didn't really care because I think he's probably the most important pick of this draft. I'm not saying he's going to come out of this being the best player, but he's going to be the best value. Watching him, I really liked what I saw. He was getting open, and when he wasn't, he was able to come down with the ball a lot. I do think he has to do something with the straps on his helmet because it kept falling off. That's fixable probably. But what you can teach him, which is the athletic numbers, which, he did beat Christian in the 40. And also when it comes to just the tenacity, he's got that. And I know he hasn't played that much a receiver, but the pedigree's there. I mean, his dad is former Bronco great Ed McCaffrey. I feel like he'll pick things up pretty quickly. With their 6th round pick, I have the Chargers taking another corner in Kamal Haddon. He's an intriguing prospect who had a pretty good season, but unfortunately came out with an injury late. He wasn't able to run a 40, but some sites speculate he's a 4.4 guy, but, who knows. But either way, there's promise for him to be able to play both zone and man, which is pretty important in Minter's system. He likes to disguise coverages, so a guy like Haddon would be very useful if he could develop into a starting corner. But, in the 6th round, you're just hoping for the best. And with the Chargers depth at corner, you really are hoping for the best. All right, with their last pick, their 7th round pick, I have the Chargers taking Talia Tagovailoa. I can lie to you and tell you I've watched a lot of tape on Tagovailoa, and I guess I wouldn't be lying as long as I said it wasn't Tua Tagovailoa. The point being, wouldn't it be hilarious if Herbert ended up on a team with Tua's brother? As far as I'm concerned, if Daniel Jeremiah can trade away from a pick that would be Marvin Harrison Jr. for a right guard, I can take the piss and take Tua's brother. And obviously, I hate criticizing other mock drafts because, mine get criticized too, and people just take them too seriously in general. But come on, DJ, you can do better than a 2nd round pick in a following draft. And if you really needed the click so bad, you should have just asked everyone to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to leave a comment below.